Just by show of hands, who's listened to Comics for the Apocalypse before? Which podcast? This guy right here. I knew there was going to be at least one. But for those of you that don't know, Comics for the Apocalypse is it's kind of like a Desert Island Disc podcast, but for comics. We've had over 100 episodes with creators like Charlie Adlard, Mark Wade, Rachel Smith, and, of course, Sarah Graley here in a moment. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, feel free to go through to your app, your podcast app, and search for Comics for the Apocalypse and subscribe. And we have weekly episodes on there, so feel free to get involved. The way that we usually start is as such. Hello, Sarah Graley. How's it going?
Hello, it's going all right. Yeah, how's it going for you?
Pretty good. It's a fantastic day here at MCM Comic Con. It's so good to see so many people that are in love with comics and everything that comes with that as well, of course. I'm really pleasantly surprised at how many people have turned out, and it's been a great day so far. How's it been for you?
Yeah, it's been really lovely. It's like totally weird being back on the con scene, but It's been really nice. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic. For those that haven't come across you just yet, what do you do in the world of comics?
I do so many comics. This is a really hard question to answer because the list got really long. I do a diary webcomic called Our Super Adventure, which is about me, my partner Steph, and our 4 cats. But I also illustrate the official Minecraft graphic novels. Me and my partner Steph, we wrote a Spider-Man story for Marvel Action Spider-Man. I've done a book called Glitch for Scholastic. I did a book with Steph called Donut the Destroyer for Scholastic. And I did a spooky rom-com series called Kim Reaper for Ernie Press. I've also done a Rick and Morty story. I think that's everything. Yeah.
Yeah, just about. You could always search for Sarah Graley, but where's the best place to find you online?
Yeah, sarahgraley.com has all the links. That's always good. On Twitter, I'm Sarah Graley Art. Someone beat me to Sarah Graley. And then on Instagram, I'm Sarah Graley.
Now, before we get started properly, I must forewarn the audience that my wife is 5 days overdue with our second child. So I'm on call, so I'm really sorry if I have to dart off at any point. I get the phone call that she's gone into labour or something like that. So thank you for your patience on that. Go back to the podcast. Unfortunately, on a day like today, it's fantastic that we've got so many people here. But as a result, we've all got phones, and that's connected to the internet. And somehow, somewhere, an artificially intelligent robot has got into that and has taken over all of the phones in everybody's pockets at MCM here, and is going to start taking over the entire planet. So from our very spot right here, what's your action plan for survival in an artificially intelligent robot uprising apocalypse?
A car's still good. I'm just going to politely leave, grab my partner, we're going to go home, I'm going to grab the cats, and I think we're going to go live in the woods. I think that's the plan. I mean, I'd love the idea of living in the woods anyway, but yeah, I'm doing that. I'm out. Bye.
Head off to the woods, and I assume with your partner?
Huh?
With your partner?
Oh, yeah.
As well, Steph, of course. Yeah, take him.
No, I'm like, bye, Steph. I mean, he's the one that drives, and I can't drive, but I'll figure it out.
It's all good. It's all good. So you two end up in the woods,
yes.
Right, all safe and sound, and around the campfire, okay. You start chewing the fat on comics. And the first question that Seth asks you is, what's the first comic you remember enjoying?
Okay, I thought you were going to follow that up with and then the robots follow you, and I was going to be like, oh god, twist. I didn't think that far. My introduction to comics was the Beano and the Dandy, but I remember seeing Sonic the comic on the shelves and being like, I would like to read that. Like, I love Sonic the Hedgehog. That was like my intro to video games. And my mum was like, I'm not buying you Sonic the comic. You can't read yet. So had to wait a while. But then I finally got some Sonic the comics. But I then kind of like took a break from comics. Like, I just kind of like fell off for a bit in my teens until like someone introduced me to Scott Pilgrim like when I was 17. And I was like, oh, comics are great. Like, so I guess, I mean, you said, like, what was your first comic? I gave you, like, 4, I'm sorry. But, yeah, I mean, if we're going, like, first comic, it's Sabino. But we were talking about, like, comics that got me back in, Scott Pilgrim, for sure.
Fantastic. And if you don't mind me asking, what age were you there?
So, when probably, like, 6 or 7, I think.
Right. Amazing.
So, I was just like, I want Sonic. Give me Sonic. Yeah. And Mum was like, okay, fine. It took a while, but yeah.
And then did that inspire you to draw, or were you drawing before that?
I was drawing before that, but like not comics. But yeah, I remember like my dad explaining to me like, oh, there are people who make this. Doesn't just like magically appear. Like people work on this comic, and it blew my mind. I was like, what? So yeah, and then I made like Sonic fan comics, and I bring them in for show and tell. I draw like on both sides of the paper so they bleed through, and you couldn't really read them, but I was so proud. So, yeah.
Absolutely, and that passion for art led you to go to university to do illustration. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was kind of like I like drawing, and I got to do something. So I did illustration at uni, and it was okay. But I was like I did a lot of comics on my free time, like outside of that, which was really good. So I did end up. I went to one uni, and then I kind of took a year off, and I just like did a lot of comics during that year. And then I was like, I should get the rest of that degree, and I went back, and third year was great because they kind of give you like what projects do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do a comic. So that was like one of my last projects at uni. So that was pretty cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How did they feel about that?
Yeah, they were on board.
They were really supportive.
I was
Great.
like, I want to do a diary comic, and my tutor was like, okay, I hope your life is interesting. And I was like, oh, I'll make it work. So yeah, I think that was kind of like before I started doing our Super Adventure, and it kind of got the ball rolling for me there. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then where did your break into comics come from?
So I guess it was from our Super Adventure. Like I was just like, I decided that I was going to do comics, so I've gotta go make some. And I was working a lot of part-time jobs. I've worked like a big range. I've been in bowling alley. I've done chocolatiering kind of. I've done stationery. I've stockroom. But like all while doing that, I was making comics on the side. Because I love drawing and I love writing, so I was like, I'm just gonna go do this. And kind of like in the background, I was just posting my diary comic, Our Super Adventure, and then after a while, it kind of like built up a bit of steam, and then it wasn't actually till I published Our Super Adventure Volume 1, and then like a year later, Our Super Adventure really took off in a big way, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. So it was like a little bit unexpected, but it was really lovely, and it was so nice to see so much love for those comics.
Fantastic, and that obviously led to where you are today,
yeah.
which is one of the best UK comic creators,
thank you.
if not in the world. So
oh gosh,
it's great to have you here on the podcast, and great to actually meet you. I got my my little poopy.
It's a weird title.
I'm stage frighting here.
Oh no, it's a Little Poopy Superstar.
That's it.
That was,
sorry. Yeah.
My first published comic was Rick and Morty, and it was for Only Press approached me and was like, we want to do a team up between Summer and little, Mr. Poopy Butthole. So I was like, yeah, okay, Little Poopy Superstar. And then obviously I'm like, it's my first published comic, and I'm like, hey Nan, I've got a book out called Little Poopy Superstar. Like that's a totally normal and appropriate title for a book.
Yeah, and it's absolutely fantastic, but I highly recommend everybody go check it out. It's a great story that focuses on Summer and Mr. Poopy Butthole from the Rick and Morty show. You did a fantastic job. with all of it.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to the world. Now, back to the campfire. And the next question that crops up is, what's the funniest comic you've read?
There's so many funny comics. So it's really hard, but I think it's got to be Anime Club by Casey Green. I think it's a bit of an old one, but I just love it. It's like 4 kids that they've got like an anime club together, and they're absolutely vile and horrible to each other. I feel like a lot of people know Casey Green, maybe not by his name. He did the This Is Fine dog that kind of like took off, and then I don't want to say the other one. I've just realized it's really inappropriate.
Let's try and keep it PG.
But I just think his work is so funny. He does like a lot of really over the top reaction panels and stuff, and everything flows so good. And sometimes you just want to read a comic about 4 vile children who love anime.
Fantastic. And then we move on to our next question, and it's changing gears quite a bit. What's the saddest comic that you've read?
See, that's such like a turn off.
It's quite a switch.
We're reading this comic about the vile anime boys, and then it's got to be like This One Summer for me, I think. I remember like getting it. I picked it up from Gosh in London after being in London for the weekend, and I was getting the train back, and I just was not ready to, like, it made me like cry so hard on like a very full train. I'm like a very much like, you know when you watch a movie and it makes you cry, and I'm like, I'm not crying kind of thing. So I'm on this train reading like this one summer, and I'm just like pouring tears out of my face, and I'm like, no one look, I'm not crying. But I love it. It's such a beautiful book. It's kind of about like a family holiday, and you kind of see it through the eyes of Rose, like a teen daughter who's with her parents, and they're going through something. And like throughout the whole book, obviously it's told from Rose's perspective, so you kind of get her reality of it. When really there's this much bigger story that it just like comes all together, and it just gets me. It just messes me up. It's so good. So I really recommend that book. It's really gorgeous and extremely different to Anime Club.
Yeah, very, very different.
The two, they do not go together, but they're both great books, which I love.
Yeah. And did you kind of go into it knowing that it was a bit of an emotional story?
No, I just I read Super. What's it called? Super Mutant Magic Academy, I think, before, and I was like, which is I think is a comedy. I haven't read it for a while, but it's quite a fun, light-hearted book, and I was like, I love this. I'm gonna get this other one, and then I was like, oh no, I'm crying.
Fantastic. Now, switching gears once again,
Sure.
What's the scariest comic that you've read?
It's hard. Like, I wanted to reread the books I was going to talk about on this panel, but I was like, I don't want to reread Through the Woods by Emily Carroll because I don't want to get too spooked. But yeah, I think that was like the first book that I was definitely like, oh, this is terrifying. It's really beautiful. It's like a collection of short like horror stories. And Emily Carroll's so rad. Like, I love her work. There's also, I've got like quite a few of Junji Ito's works. I wasn't aware of him until he was a guest at TCAF, Toronto Comic Art Festival, a couple of years ago. And like my whole Twitter feed exploded. We're like, yeah, Junji Ito's coming. And I was like, who is he? And I feel like everyone sees, it's like kind of a meme now, but it's the man going, he's on a wall, there's a man-shaped hole, and he's like, this is my hole. That's Junji Ito. But like his work's very scary. It's less lighthearted than that. But I feel like his work is really, that's also a bunch of like collections of horror stories. And they're so much fun. I love horror, but I am terrified of it as well at the same time.
Yeah, Junji Ito is as incredible as he is scary.
Yes.
To be honest, I wouldn't want to spend more than like 30 seconds in his brain because some of it is pretty scary. I'm not on the page, but yeah, no, that's fantastic. Now, moving on to my favourite question,
okay,
and that is, what is your favourite cover?
Oh, so many good covers. I'm going to go for, I love Nathalie Fourdain's work, and she does like the variant covers for the Sonic IDW series, and there's like a Halloween cover that she did that's just like absolutely gorgeous. But I mean, like you guys heard, I love Sonic the Hedgehog. I love Nathalie Fourdain's work. And I love Halloween. I love spooky things. So it's just kind of like a marriage of like all the things that I love. Like I'm like, this cover is for me, and I love it. I adore her work. I feel like she got into, she was doing like Sonic fan art and kind of got noticed and picked up, and now she does like these licensed covers, and they're just beautiful. But I have like some of her like early Sonic art on in my hallway, which I pass every day, and I'm like, yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog's great.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic one. Of course, I looked at it in preparation for today, and if anybody wants to take a look, it's Sonic the Hedgehog number 22. I think it is. It's a fantastic cover that really kind of, puts all of the Sonic the Hedgehog universe characters into like Halloween fancy dress, basically, doesn't it? It's really, really well compiled and balanced and things like that. So definitely go check it out. And a further question I wanted to ask you is there a particular cover that you're proud of?
Oh my gosh.
Yourself, that you've drawn yourself?
Shoot.
Yeah, sorry, I'll put you on the spot there.
For my Kim Reaper series, Kim Reaper, it's all about a part-time Grim Reaper. And on the cover of Volume 1, it's the two main characters, Kim and Becca, and they're sat on a pile of skulls. And I drew that. I mocked it up, like mocking up a cover. It's just super rough to show your editor what you're going to do. And it took seconds. It was fine. And then when I had to draw the thing, I was like, oh my God, so many skulls. And then I had to ink the skulls, and I had to color the skulls. And then for Volume 2, it's called Vampire Island, so I was like, I'll draw them on a pile of bats. And I did not learn my lesson at all. But I'm really happy with how the cover came out, so I think it was worth it. But it was just so much time spent inking each bat. But yeah, I think that's my favorite cover. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it can be. I mean, I'm no artist, but from speaking to many artists, just the detail can be so laborious sometimes. Like particularly when you're just repeating things, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I feel like there have definitely been like scenes where I'm like, oh God, what have I gotten myself into? But at the end, when I've done it all and it becomes a distant memory, I'm like, I love that. Oh yeah, go me.
That's brilliant. Now, moving on to another of my favourite questions, and that is, what's the most meaningful comic to you?
Oh, man. So that's another hard question.
Yeah, sorry.
We're all getting really deep around the campfire.
Totally.
I mean, so for me, like, along with Scott Pilgrim, I was reading webcomics when I was first, and I'm still reading webcomics because they're amazing, but when I was first getting back into comics, and Liz Prince's Would You Still Love Me If I Wet the Bed came up, and I got that, and it's like it's a very small and cute comic about like couple stuff, and I was like, I feel like it's a very big influence for me, seeing that and just being like, this is really nice. And for me as well, it's like my cats and my partner are constantly doing cute things. I want to tell everyone about it, and like seeing Liz Prince's work there, I was like, oh, this is a thing that you can do? Like, yes, I'm going to do it too. But it's a really, really nice collection, and I think, yeah, it was a very important comic for me.
Yeah, and where was that in your own comic career? Was it kind of pre you getting published, or? Oh
yeah. There was early days. Like I did quite a few comics before getting published, but I didn't want to name my webcomics because they're quite bad, and I don't want anyone to look at them. But it's okay. Like, you start making comics. They're not going to be like. I mean, maybe they are going to be incredible from the get-go, but they're probably not, and that's okay, because like, that's the thing about making comics is you learn so much by doing, like, each page you kind of learn something. So, yeah, I think that was like kind of at the very start for me. It was very, very early.
So it's great to have an influence like that, where it gives you the confidence to perhaps try something that you might not have by yourself. Yeah. So having seen that published and read it, that kind of gives you the confidence. Oh, I can't. This is a thing that you could do.
Yeah, and I feel like, like over 10 years ago, kind of like I feel like if you a lot of webcomics now do follow like the 4-panel format, but I feel like they were less common like that many years ago. So it was cool to see that format. Like, not all comics had to be like long, like graphic novels and stuff. Like, you could just do short and sweet things. And I was like, yes, I do. That's the kind of comics I wanted to make at the time. I still want to make them, of course.
Of course, but that's great to give you that early confidence. Now, moving on to another interesting question, and that is, what's the most underrated comic?
So I'm going to go... See, like, I feel like more people should be talking about Cosmo Nights. Cosmo Nights is awesome. It's by Han Templar, and I think it is also a webcomic as well as published, so you can totally go read it.
And just so that people can go Google, go search for it, it's Cosmo Nights with a K,
Yes.
.space.
Oh, excellent.
And then, and then you can go read it there.
So yeah, it's like Hannah's an incredible cartoonist. Like she writes, draws, and colors it, and I love her color work, like the palettes that she chooses. But she's just a powerhouse. Like she's incredible. And Cosmo Nights is also incredible, and I think we should all be talking about how good Cosmo Nights is, honestly.
So yeah, get on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to give everybody a bit of a flavour, what's it about? It sounds so intriguing, Cosmo Nights. It sounds like an 80s cartoon, right?
So it's kind of about like, oh gosh, I'm so bad at pitching my own comics. I'm really bad at pitching other people's comics, but I'm going to try. So it's about mechs. It's about space mechs. There we go. That's all you really need to know. They battle to win, kind of like to win princesses, kind of thing. And obviously that's messed up. It sucks. And there are these Cosmo Knights who are like fighting to save princesses, and you should be like, no, you don't have to come live with me. Just to go live your life, sort of thing. And it's like it's just beautiful. It's queer. It's gorgeous, and it's such a good story, and I definitely want to reread it. Now I've just talked about it a bunch, so I kind of hope everyone else does too.
Excellent. So yeah, definitely go check that out, Cosmo Nights .space. Now, moving into our penultimate question, and that is, what comic would you recommend to a friend who's never read comics?
See, this was also a really hard one, because like obviously I like to tailor, like I love buying presents for people. Like when it's birthday, I'm like, I'm gonna get you a book, and it's even better if I know the person then reads the book, because sometimes I'm very bad at this. I have a huge to read pile, but my brother reads all the books I buy him, which is amazing. I love that, and his birthday's coming up. He's gonna get another Junji Ito one, but I feel like. It's just hard. I was talking to my partner Steph about it, and Steph said Giant Days by John Allison, which I also think is great, but I haven't read. I need to read more of. But also, like for me, Scott Pilgrim was like totally my like introduction back into comics. I think it's really fun. So it's probably what I would push towards other people. Like, hey, there's like what, 5 or 6 books? It's 5 or 6?
I think it's 6.
Yeah, there you go. It's this whole 6 books to read. If you enjoy it, there's more, which is lovely. But yeah, I think it's just fun. Like for me, it was like when I kind of fell off comics, I kind of got into my head that they were just like this one genre thing, and they're really not. They're like, comics are so diverse, and sometimes you just want to read. It sounds like I just read a load of comics now about vile people or like people who are kind of a mess, but they're fun. And Scott Pilgrim's kind of a mess, and it's also like a goofy adventure. Is it an adventure, a misadventure? Where he's got to fight like 7 evil exes to date Ramona Flowers. Like, what's not to love? It's pretty good time. Yeah, so it'd probably be like Scott Pilgrim, or I'd do a tailored recommendation. But you have to know the person,
Fantastic. Well, no, yeah, Scott Pilgrim's a great choice because it's got it all.
Exactly.
Basically, doesn't it? It's one of those that it kind of covers a lot of things in terms of comedy, drama, action, adventure, and things like that. So like it's a great start for people into the world of comics. Now coming on to our last question in regards to comics, and that is, if you could only take one comic into this apocalypse, into the woods, which would it be?
See, I also struggled with this question. I think my partner Steph said he'd bring like. Can you bring the whole collection of Giant Days? Is that allowed? That's multiple comics. But I think I would bring...
It's probably got a slipcase though, right? Like a really big slipcase, so you could kind of count that, or maybe, I don't know.
I think there have been like printed fat collections, which are just gorgeous. But for me, I would take the Walking Dead compendium, the really big book, because I haven't read it for a while. But the thing is, I have such a huge to-read list. I look at it, and I'm like, I have already read this very chunky book, so I probably should read through my other ones. And what I'm thinking is that maybe, maybe it'd help me through the apocalypse. Or I'd read about other characters dying and I'd be like, I'm not going to do that. Thanks, Walking Dead. And then even if I have to, if the apocalypse gets grim, if I have to fight some robots, I got this really chunky book. So I'll be okay.
That's the main thing. And yeah, it's great to have a reference book there, isn't it? And give you some ideas. But yeah, as you say, it is a really chunky one. It's like 48 issues.
It's so big.
Per compendium. So yeah, no, it's a handy weapon. And talking of weapons, along with a compendium from The Walking Dead, what weapon, tool, or useful item would you like to take with you as well?
I'm just going to perish. I'm sorry, Sam. I admit my defeat, my fate. It's not very inspiring. I'm sorry. I should have said something good so we could end on a high. I'm so sorry.
It's quite all right. What you've got, let's go with hope.
Oh,
let's try and go with that,
hope.
Right? I'm going to take hope with me and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Expect the worst, but hope for the best. Well, Sarah Graley, it's been so fantastic finding out your comics for the apocalypse. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking me all these fun questions. I had a wonderful time around the campfire.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody, one more time, where can they find you online?
Oh, you can find me at sarahgraley.com. Oh my gosh. And I'm on Twitter at Sarah Graley Art. On Instagram at Sarah Graley. It's Graley.
That's the one. And your stall is basically over by Spider-Man, but one aisle over?
Yeah. If you can find Spider-Man, you could probably find my booth. So it's very yellow as well. It's kind of near the 11 on the wall.
Exactly. Fantastic. Well, I think Sarah deserves a round of applause. So put your hands together for Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
And for everybody here, I hope you have enjoyed that. And if you did enjoy that and you'd like to listen to more, definitely go check out Comics for the Apocalypse on Spotify, iTunes, and all that jazz. You'd be welcome to join the listenership along with Dominic here. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.